VIPER at Six Flags Magic Mountain is arguably one of the most iconic roller coasters of all time. It's been featured in countless films, television shows, and commercials, including the 1992 film Encino Man, the 2000 film Space Cowboys, as well as TV shows Glee and Beverly Hills 90210, just to name a few. And it just celebrated its 33rd birthday, which is impressive given the uncertainty surrounding it for more than 2 decades. VIPER opened on April 7, 1990 as the tallest and fastest full-circuit looping coaster in the world, and was the last of the 7 inversion mega loopers built by the now-defunct Aerodynamics. The others being Shockwave at Six Flags Great America, which operated from 1988 until 2002, and Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Great Adventure from 1989 until 2010. It stands at an impressive 188 feet tall. That's only 12 feet short of being a hyper. And with a massive curved drop of 177 feet, VIPER reaches a top speed of 72 miles per hour. To put those stats into perspective, at the time of its opening, the second tallest and fastest coaster in the park was Colossus at 125 feet tall and a top speed of 62 miles per hour. And the most that you can go upside down on a coaster was once. Its 7 inversions, consisting of 3 vertical loops, a bat wing, and 2 corkscrews, is still rather impressive today, ranked 7th in the world. Well, tied with a bunch of other coasters, like Scream, also at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Despite its status as an icon, rumors about VIPER's removal have been swirling around for a very long time, as early as 2002 when Shockwave was removed from Six Flags Great Adventure. That's a full 20 years of being rumored on the chopping block. When Great American Scream Machine bit the dust in 2010, speculation about its demise grew even stronger. Yet, here we are 13 years later, and VIPER still stands tall. In this video, we'll examine various ideas for what could take its place, and give our thoughts on what we can see happening with VIPER in the coming years. This is the potential future of VIPER at Six Flags Magic Mountain. When we started ACN in 2001, VIPER was only 11 years old, but it already felt so old compared to the newer rides at the time, such as Batman the Ride, The Riddler's Revenge, and Goliath. It's pretty crazy that VIPER is only 4 years older than Batman, because it sure doesn't feel like it. But I want to go even further back in time and express how much VIPER means to me as a coaster enthusiast. It was a foggy morning in 1990. I was 8 years old. As the family station wagon made that turn at the top of Magic Mountain Parkway towards the parking toll booths, I saw VIPER for the very first time. I'm aging myself, and this generation is too young to understand now, but up until X was built in front of it in 2001, VIPER was the first thing you'd see. The ride appeared daunting as it stood up tall on that hill and absolutely dominated the skyline. It was extremely intimidating, and still is today. You see, VIPER sits on land that's roughly 100 feet higher than where Goliath is built. That means VIPER towers about 53 feet higher than Goliath in the Valencia skyline. Just imagine if something taller was built in its place. More on that in a bit. Anyway, I never rode VIPER on that day in 1990. I wasn't tall enough yet. But even when I was, as a teenager, it took being persuaded by my older brother to finally conquer the ride. And it became the coaster that got me over the fear of all roller coasters, and very much the reason I became the coaster enthusiast I am today. So for me, there's a strong emotional attachment to it. With that said, there's times in more recent years I've gotten off VIPER thinking to myself, it's time to go. But then I'll revisit another time and it'll be running so well that I don't want it going anywhere. With those mixed feelings, it got me thinking about how much longer it'll be around, and what could possibly take its spot if it was removed. For it would have to be something worthy. There are some signs that the ride might be leaving us soon. For instance, VIPER hasn't been fully repainted since 2008 when it got some love along with X during its upgrade to X2. But fading paint doesn't mean a coaster is going to be removed. For example, Tatsu, which finally got repainted last year, went even longer without a fresh coat. Not since its opening in 2006. So this puts VIPER a year away from a new paint job, right? But it's also been closed a lot more recently, which could be due to staffing issues during the winter months, or perhaps something similar to Ninja where it just can't operate in colder weather. It's really hard to say for sure. But if VIPER does get replaced with something, there's only one type of coaster worthy of that iconic spot. Yes, the answer is painfully obvious. A clone of Maverick. Just kidding. Unlike Shockwave being replaced with a B&M Flying Coaster, or Great American Scream Machine being replaced with a B&M Stand-Up Coaster, a potential replacement of VIPER would have to be bigger. Much bigger. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean big in height. And we don't think the park would remove VIPER and leave the land empty like another park did. Given the park's love for inversions, one option for replacing VIPER could be a coaster featuring a whole lot of them. Of the 16 adult coasters at Six Flags Magic Mountain, 11 of them feature inversions. In fact, they hold a record for most inversions in a park, with a mind-blowing 43. That's 15 more inversions than the park currently ranking second, Cedar Point with 28. Loving its world records, they could opt for a coaster with the most inversions in the world, which would have to be at least 15, one more than the Smiler at Alton Towers in the UK. If they go this route, two manufacturers with coasters featuring a lot of inversions come to mind. Gerstlauer, who built the Smiler at Alton Towers, and Intamin, who built quite a few of their own 10 inversion roller coaster models around the world. With the Gerstlauer designed hang time at nearby Knott's Berry Farm, we just can't see them going with them. Which leaves us with Intamin, whom the park has a rocky history with due to the issues with Superman the Escape in the mid-90s. But they did return to Intamin for Lex Luthor Drop of Doom and Green Lantern First Flight. And yes, Green Lantern also had issues and was eventually removed. But given Intamin's more recent success, we can definitely see the park potentially working with them again. A 15 inversion roller coaster with Intamin's new generation lap bars? Yes please. Switching coaster types and designers, a B&M dive coaster could be an option, but with Knott's Berry Farm having a dive coaster of their own, and SeaWorld having just received the B&M designed Emperor last year, it's unlikely. Especially with X2 right there, already with the most epic first drop on any coaster we've been on. However, the park doesn't seem to mind adding coasters similar to its lineup. West Coast Racers is literally a launched mashup of Full Throttle and Twisted Colossus. A B&M dive coaster could fit very well in that plot of land. Being Magic Mountain, they would obviously go for the height record. Currently, the tallest is Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland, which stands 223 feet and has a drop of 245 feet with the help of a tunnel. Magic Mountain could easily do something similar, making use of the hillside and building a taller dive coaster than Yukon Striker. However, there's something similar to a dive coaster that Southern California doesn't have, and that would be a tilt coaster by Vekoma, who hasn't had the best reputation up until recently. But they've built some incredible new coasters in Europe, such as Lek Coaster and Formula at parks in Poland. And they're currently making a grand return to the United States, with Big Bear Mountain opening at Dollywood this year, and Circuit Breaker at Codaland next year. And speaking of Circuit Breaker, which will be the first tilt coaster in North America, the model is a really strong candidate for Magic Mountain. You know, the rumor of a tilt coaster for the park dates all the way back to IAAPA 2000, when Giovanola, who just opened Goliath in the park, displayed a working model of their Terra Tilter coaster concept. There was even artwork showing the coaster at Magic Mountain with Goliath in the background. Just imagine how epic that would look next to X2. However, the park would also likely need to build a new restroom for the increased demand. Magic Mountain also loves building coasters that are a first of their kind, which takes us to yet another possibility, an SNS access coaster. It would be different from anything else in the park, and would further pad Magic Mountain as the roller coaster capital of the world. In October 2019, SNS Sansei Technologies released a video teasing a new type of coaster that has seats that can swing horizontally left and right in a full 360 degrees of motion, versus the forward and backward flipping seen on X2 and other 4D coasters. At IAAPA 2021, they announced the first model was sold to a park in Europe, to debut in 2023. So far, no details are known, and we question if it's still happening. But even if an access coaster is built in Europe, Magic Mountain could have the bragging rights for their first one in North America. And we all know they'll make it taller, faster, and more flippy than what's ever built across the pond. But what if they did something that wasn't inversion based? Now, it's a long shot given the current spending habits of Six Flags, but a record-breaking gigacoaster replacement is what makes the most sense. And the location of VIPER with its high elevation and proximity to Interstate 5 is perfect. Just imagine, if you will, something taller than Fury 325 up on that hill. It would appear almost as high as the infamous Sky Tower. And while VIPER itself sits on a fairly compact section of land, if the park was to build a gigacoaster, they could do so over the Grand Oak Picnic Pavilion near where the front entrance is, which is a rather large area. And something akin to the Treble Clef turnaround on Fury 325 would look great on the island of grass just outside the park's entrance. In the opposite physical direction, Magic Mountain could perhaps look at using the land currently occupied by Roaring Rapids for a giga layout that originates where VIPER is now. Roaring Rapids has been closed since 2021, and Magic Mountain does have a history of removing its water rides for record-breaking coasters. Both of these options would give the park more than enough space for a record-breaking gigacoaster. But as much as we'd love to see a record-setting looper, an access coaster, a tilt coaster, or a giga, there's just something so very special about VIPER and X2, two of aerodynamics' greatest creations, standing right next to each other in the Magic Mountain skyline. And we believe the park feels the same way. So what we see is the most likely option is a top-to-bottom refurbishment in order to keep the ride around for many years to come. And in order to accomplish that, a few things will need to happen. New trains, new track, or both, along with new paint, obviously. In 2015, Six Flags Over Georgia upgraded their Vekoma multilooper Ninja with new trains featuring Vestile restraint, which made the ride much more enjoyable, paired with new colors and a new name, Blue Hawk. The ride originally opened in 1989, so it's only a year older than VIPER. But you don't even have to look across the country for an example. Just down the hill from VIPER is an even older coaster, 1976's Revolution, which got some love back in 2016, where it received new trains and an updated color scheme. But the park also needed to figure out a way to draw people in for a new experience on the same coaster, so virtual reality was also added, which they could probably do the same for VIPER. I've got it. VIPER VR. I can see it now. A logo with a capitalized V and R. How creative. New track isn't completely out of the question either. Other classic and fan favorite coasters, such as the Incredible Hulk at Islands of Adventure and Nemesis at Alton Towers, have recently received this treatment. There's also Python at Efteling, which recently had the majority of its track replaced in 2018. But track replacement won't be cheap. There's 3,830 feet of it, though they could easily get away with keeping the original track from the final brake sections all the way up to the top of the lift, as well as the mid-course brakes, which would cut that number down to around 3,000 feet. Dollywood saved a few bucks with this method when they added iBox track to Lightning Rod in 2021, and we all know Six Flags loves saving a few bucks. Well, that's gonna do it, and as with all speculation videos, there's nothing definitive about the things we just said, but it's a lot of fun to look at all the potential possibilities the future might hold for VIPER. And as awesome as all the replacement ideas would be, we still hope that VIPER will be around in some form for many more years to come. But we'd like to know what your take is. How much longer will the iconic VIPER be standing? And what would you replace it with? Drop a comment below and let us know what you think the future holds for VIPER. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.